Okay, so this is a quick little video just on both completing the square and the formula. The big thing with completing the square is how you initially set up the equation. You always want to get the x's on the same side. I'm actually going to do number 11 from the worksheet on your complete the square worksheet. So the first thing I want to notice, I want to move the 8x to the left side to be with the x squared. I'm going to move the 25 over. So I keep the x squared on the left. I'm going to add 8x to the left side, leaving a blank, equals, I'm going to subtract 25 to the other side. I'm going to then complete the square by taking half of 8, which is 4, then 4 squared, which is 16. Then I need to add 16 to both sides. Negative 25 plus 16 is negative 9. Then I want to solve for x. The whole goal of completing the square is to get all of my x's down to a single x. So I'm going to solve for x using inverses. Now I need to square root both sides. So my square root cancels out my square, leaving just x plus 4 equals. Now, whenever you take the square root of an equation, don't forget plus or minus. Since we are taking the square root of a negative number, it's I. This is an imaginary answer. So the square root of 9 is 3. Because it's the square root of negative 9, it's 3i. Then I'm just going to get x by itself by subtracting 4 to the other side. So I really just push over the plus or minus 3i and just tuck in that negative 4. This is my final answer with completing the square. You know you're done when your final answer says x equals. Because my answer contains an I, because I had the square root of a negative, this gives me 2 imaginary answers. And because these are not real, this graph would be above the x-axis. This graph will never intersect the x-axis because my answers are both imaginary. So this is the complete the square method. Finish the rest of the worksheet for practice. The other concept on the test or the checkpoint tomorrow is the quadratic formula. My best advice is learn the song, because if you hum it along, you can write it out. The very first thing I would always do is write the formula itself out. La 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 la. X equals opposite of b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, in order to use the formula, this is really important, the equation has to equal 0. So how you start the problem is really important. When you complete the square, I want only the x's together on one side and the constant on the other. When you use the formula, you've got to get the equation equal to 0. That means I got to move over the 16. And to move over by 16, I need to add it to both sides. Then the right side equals 0. Because you got a plus 16, plus 16. Okay, then a is 1, b is 8, negative 8, c is 16. Now I just plug in my a, b, c's into the formula. All right, here we go again. X equals opposite of b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right. When you simplify the formula, you always want to multiply these numbers first. So 4 times 1 times 16 is 64. But what is 64 minus 64? That's just 0. So you get 8 plus or minus 0 over 2. Well, it doesn't matter if you add 0 or subtract 0, it's still just 8 over 2. So your answer is just x equals 4. Since you only have one real answer, that means it's going to intersect, this graph would intersect the x-axis one time at 4. This is the double root that bounces off the x-axis. Anytime you get a single answer, one real answer, it's always a double root that bounces off the x-axis. Two real will always touch it twice. Two imaginary also means 0 real, right? These are the same thing. It means it won't touch it at all, 0 times. So your number of real answers truly tells you how many times your graph will intersect the x-axis.